Welcome back. You are watching the press preview. A first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. It's time to see what's making the headlines with political commentator Adam Bolton and deputy political editor of The Guardian, Jessica Elgott. They'll be with us from now until just before midnight. So let's see what's on some of those front pages for you now. Well, on the Daily Telegraph, Portuguese police say fresh searches will be carried out on behalf of German authorities investigating the disappearance of Meline Macccan. Same story on The Sun, which has the headline "Radar Search and Dig for Maddie," it writes. The Star is also following the story. It says Maddie search shock as 30 cops hunt for missing girl. The Guardian features the Prime Minister's announcement today on defence spending as Keir Starmer pledges to make Britain battle-ready. The Financial Times leads on defence spending. They say defence aims submarines at heart of review. On the front of the Eye, British over 18s offered taste of military life with gap year in the forces. The Metro leads with the inquest of the British soldier who was missing for 3 weeks before he was found dead in bed at his barracks. They report his family have many questions about his death. And the Daily Mail splashes on Conservative leader Kem Benedok, who warns of backdoor blasphemy laws after a man who burnt a Quran outside a Turkish consulate in London has been found guilty of a religiously aggravated public order offence. And we are joined tonight by political commentator Adam Bolton and deputy political editor of The Guardian, Jessica Elgott. Welcome to both of you. Let's start with the Defence Review, obviously. That's the story in, well, it's on all the front pages. Let's start with the FT and the headline there, Defence aims submarines at heart of review. Adam.
Well, this is... the actual Defence Review came out rather late in the day for people to really know what has been proposed, and the government immediately accepted all the proposals. Now, the Financial Times has picked up on something that we knew was coming because, much to the fury of the Speaker, it was briefed in advance, which is that the government is saying it's going to commit to 12 nuclear attack submarines of the type depicted on the front of the Financial Times to replace an ageing fleet, and actually a smaller ageing fleet. And generally speaking, there's been quite good recognition for the tech side of what's being proposed, that the government is clearly looking for cheaper single-use things like drones, but also looking to modernise its fleet for this war footing, which, according to the Prime Minister, we've now been put on.
And Jessica, obviously, technology is going to be at the heart of every drive to make any fleet battle-ready, as the Prime Minister is suggesting.
Yeah, AI and cyber, the new Cyber Command and MOD is one of the kind of flagship 62 recommendations in this, but that's one of the key ones to pick out. I mean, one of the things that the review says is that because the technology and AI is changing so quickly and so rapidly, it's very difficult to, you need to have quite an agile strategy in order to adapt to the new technology. But lots of other kind of maybe we would describe as analogue things in this as well. You know, there's military gap years to get young people sort of more interested in the army, and generally a sense that people at home need to understand more about the point of a nuclear deterrent, why we're making this kind of investment in defence, more lessons about that in schools and general public communication, you know, because it is billions and billions of pounds, which is likely to be paid for in the autumn by tax rises, and people need to understand why that's important.
Some of it is kind of reinventing the wheel. I mean, on military gap years, people are pointing out that there used to be a thing called the Short-Term Service Commission, which to a certain extent was phased out because it was expensive, because you were paying people before they went to university and while they were at university. And, of course, now there's a question of student fees as well. So, you know, it's yet another area where there seems to be a lot of nodding, but actually putting it in place and paying for it is a different question.
This military gap year, it's discussed in more detail on one of the other front pages. I think it's the Eye. British over 18s offered taste of military life with a gap year in the Army, Navy and RAF. How is this likely to be received, do you think, Jessica, this idea?
I think
Not completely new.
Yeah, not a completely new idea, but I think there is a sense that the army has had some recruitment difficulties. The pay is not great, the conditions are not great, and if you're a young person thinking about do you want to risk your life in a career, then you get better paid if you're in the police or if you're the firefighter. So there has to be a way to kind of introduce people, a new generation to the idea of why it might be useful or might be a good idea to think about a career in the army. The difficulty, I think, is that there's no actual commitment in this, and some of the others' papers get to it, to increasing the size of the army. I think it's the first time a review like this for a long time hasn't actually recommended cutting in various places the size of troops. But there's no real commitment to increase the size of the standing army.
On this gap year, they're making very clear, and it's there on the front of the eye, that this is not a return to national service. This will be
As
voluntary.
the Tories tried to do in the
Well, they talked about national service, which didn't go very well in the general election. But where everyone will be involved is they're trying to make a push through schools to alert people to the military threat and the merit of being interested in defence or the military as a possible future career.
I think that public consent argument is actually going to be a really important one. It's kind of one of the more interesting things that's come out today. There was some polling that people are broadly in favour of increasing spending on defence, although a lot of people said they thought it should be kept the same. But when you ask people whether they want to see their taxes rise to pay for it, they say no. And whether you ask people whether it should be prioritised over other public services like health or education, they also say no. So it is a difficult balance to strike about, whether people really truly believe that the world is they've got to make the case that this is the world is so dangerous that it merits this.
Yes, definitely the public want to be defended, but they don't want to forfeit other things for that.
I think we saw today and over the weekend with the Defence Secretary, the Prime Minister very clearly trying to roll the pitch. He doesn't feel as yet that he's got the public opinion behind him to actually say, look, we're going to spend this extra money and this is where it's going to come from, but he's trying to generate a public awareness that we really have to do it.
And I think one of the things that's actually quite difficult for the Prime Minister to navigate is one of the really core arguments for doing this is because the stance of the United States has changed so dramatically under Trump that it doesn't feel like they would automatically come to the defence of Europe, especially some of the rhetoric coming out from the Vice President, J.D. Vance, on that. That's a difficult thing for Keir Starmer to kind of articulate publicly because obviously he's trying to stay on side with Trump himself. But that is one of the things that's underpinning this changed world, which is the code they use for...
they really, really don't want to criticise the United States. Right. I was interviewing the Defence Secretary yesterday and he was going on about his friend Pete Hegseth. And I said to him...
His friend?
Well, exactly. I said that, most British people would... be a bit shocked by that. They haven't been impressed by this former Fox News weekend anchor who was
Signal chat.
Involved in the Signal chat and all the rest of it. But the government is still saying, Keir Starmer, David Lammy and the Defence Secretary, these people are our mates. And I don't think that's how the majority in Britain see it.
And you can see from this
review...
That's
the benefit of the Americaneers, though, isn't it? That sort of talk.
You can see from this review, though, that there is this idea that Europe has to rethink its own defence. And that's what part of the thought process that's running through this whole review. They just can't really acknowledge that publicly.
The Express saying that Keir Starmer's plan to boost defence spending is too slow and it, quote, there won't cut the mustard.
This is Lord Danet, who we know very well, who was Chief of Defence Staff up until 2009. Someone always very clear to express his views. And, this is the reality of it. On this 3%, which has been raised by the Defence Secretary and the Prime Minister, they are not committing to it. They are simply saying that they're quite sure that we'll end up spending 3% by the end of the next Parliament. But, a lot of the generals are saying, well, actually, we need 3% now, and probably we're talking about closer to 4% by 2034. And there isn't even a commitment to get to 3%. All we've got is this commitment allegedly paid for by cuts in foreign aid to get to 2.5% by the end of this Parliament.
And that lack of firm commitment is a worry to all eyes watching, isn't it?
I mean, we expect the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte to call for something like 3.5% when that meeting comes at the end of June. And again, that sort of starts to, you know, if we then sign up to that, then it sort of starts to make some of this look quite redundant in many ways. I mean, Starmer has said he's not prepared to commit to a date to fulfil this. He's not prepared to, until he can spell out exactly how he's going to pay for it. At the moment, they've kind of done this transactional thing of cutting foreign aid directly to pay for this increase. But where the next tranche of money is going to come from to make that next load of increases is still very unclear, even after today.
I do recommend Ed Conway's breakdown on all this spending. Ed Conway at Sky, of course, which you can see on social media. I mean, the point that Ed makes is actually if you're talking about the sharp end spending on weapons, although the UK in overall defence spending is something like 5th in NATO, actually leaps into second place because we are already spending a lot on weapons, and clearly we're going to spend a lot more.
Very interesting point. Adam and Jessica, thank you very much for the moment. We're going to take a break, much more to come up, including this on the front of the Sun newspaper, their headline, radar search and dig for Maddie. That, of course, Meline Macccan referring to. We'll be right back.
I'm David Blevins, and I'm Sky's senior Ireland correspondent.
It takes 60 minutes to cross the Irish Sea. It took the British monarchy a century.
I've spent 30 years reporting the journey from conflict to peace.
The political parties of Northern Ireland have reached agreement.
If there's anyone who might know how to fix Northern Ireland's devolved government, it's the American architect.
Changes in circumstance require changes in approach.
The end of the political stalemate, the start of a new chapter for Northern Ireland.
I confirm that I am willing to take up the office of First Minister. My election to the post of First Minister demonstrates the change that's happening on this island.
Catholics and Protestants on different sides, now facing the same threat.
If we both contract COVID-19 and end up in hospital, religion's nothing.
People here are adept at finding hope amid adversity. That's the spirit of a place that punches way above its weight.
We help you understand the world with us. A toxic blue-green algae now poisoning Lough Neagh. It's breaking your heart what has happened here.
It is.
This is a vital resource, a national treasure, now fighting for its very life. They are effectively surrounded by Northern Ireland, and that makes this the most unlikely of international frontiers.
If there's a hard border, I think it'll cripple the country.
Winter is coming. Welcome to Winterfell. It's an iconic location in this globally acclaimed drama. Ophelia was the most powerful hurricane this far east in the Atlantic on record.
Sky News, the full story first.
Welcome to the world.
Our new podcast, starting now. It's very exciting. Every week, we'll be reporting from the world's trouble spots.
We get to hold those in positions of power accountable, and we get to ask the questions that the audience, the listeners, want to know about.
And that's why it is so important that people tune in, come along for the road, come along for the journey. It'll be fun.
We arrive. A secret hospital hidden in the Myanmar jungle, treating the victims of this bloody war. This is Myanmar today. Its military rulers don't want the world to see, but we have.
I fight for my own future. I fight for my generation's future.
This is an actual crime.
They don't care for that.
Myanmar army is only a couple of kilometers away. So this is a major humanitarian disaster.
Jubilation in the streets, while some emotional.
This is a political victory for Prime Minister Modi and his Hindu Nationalist Party. I'm Neville Lazarus, and I'm Sky's reporter based in Delhi. Companies like these are helping India in its trajectory to be a serious player in space exploration. Sky News get the full story first.
Welcome back. You are watching the press preview. Still with me, Adam Bolton and Jessica Elgott. Let's start with the Mail front page in this section. And this story about Kem Benedok warning of the impact of creeping blasphemy laws. And this following on from the case of a gentleman who's ordered to pay £240 and a £96 statutory surcharge. And this is for... did he actually burn a copy of the Quran? Yes, burnt a copy of the Quran and hold it up a text, inflammatory text.
Yeah, this case has been around for a while, and the Prime Minister was actually asked about it by one of the independent Muslim MPs, and shocked quite a lot of people by not saying we have free speech in this country, but instead said that, you know, he was very concerned that someone actually do something about the Quran. Of course, a generation ago, Britain finally abandoned having blasphemy laws largely protecting Christianity. So the argument goes that there should be free speech. I have to say, this sentence is pretty moderate, and it's not directly related to blasphemy at all. It's to, you know, basically public disorder. So whether Kem Benedok is wise to play this card, I think is an open question, because we know, indeed, there was a double-page spread in the Mail about it yesterday, about the situation in parts of Birmingham. There is a great deal of concern about political mobilisation of Muslims, particularly in areas where there's a concentrated population, which can have a significant effect on the outcome of elections. She's played this card. I wonder whether in this particular case it's actually terribly appropriate.
Jessica, is she objecting for objection's sake, or does she have a point?
I mean, this case is a very fine line to walk, in the sense that, of course, there is free speech in this country, but also there isn't necessarily the right to be, you know, kind of gratuitously violent or aggressive. And we've seen people arrested at protests for arguably a bit less than what happened here. Whether that's right or wrong. I mean, Number 10 today were fairly categorical that they didn't see this as kind of setting a precedent towards any potential backdoor blasphemy law. What it feels like, and I think Kem Benedok gets herself into this situation quite a lot, is that she seems to kind of set the direction of the Tory party on the basis of whatever's kind of trending online. Rather than, you know, a lot of Tory MPs will say to you, the only place that we can really start to make inroads is on the economy for people, you know, people who, as a you know, opposition to Labour's economic programme. Reform don't really have that, so there's a huge open space for the Tories to try and resurrect themselves. And yet our leader is just kind of has a head turned by any kind of online, you know, row there is about culture wars.
I mean, the framing of it is quite odd as well, because she clearly picks up on quite a lot of things that are moving on the right in American politics, and there have been direct attacks on the UK for allegedly not having freedom of speech. She, however, has gone down the blasphemy line, which seems to be more focused at Muslims, whereas the American concern was, for example, about anti-abortion protesters. It was the Christian right saying that they were being closed down. So, you know, as so often with her, it seems sort of slightly half-cock in terms of the point she's trying to make.
Well, she's insisting that the case go to appeal, so we shall see whether that does come to fruition. Let's turn to the Sun front page, and this is the case of Meline Macccan. The German police lead an investigation in which a search is going to resume tomorrow morning. They're going to start searching the area again. This obviously has been extensively searched in the past, but now this one in particular is going to concentrate around the main suspect's home, Christian B. Jessica? Oh.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those stories that we've just covered for so many years. I think Adam was saying just before we came on that Meline Macccan would be 21, which is extraordinary to think of. I mean, it seems like they're in a race against time to charge Christian B, he was about to be released from prison for serving a separate sentence for raping an American tourist in Portugal. So this feels very much like the last chance saloon to prove that he had, if he did, anything to do with Meline Maccan's disappearance.
I mean, what we don't know is whether they've got any specific leads. It seems as if this is, frankly, a bit of a fishing exercise to try and turn up some evidence, because German prosecutors have consistently said they don't have enough evidence, even although the implication is that everybody thinks that Christian Bruckner was the person responsible for the death of Meline Maccan. But his defence team are quite adamant that he should be released if he's not charged, and there's no way the Germans can keep him in prison. So they are searching, apparently they're searching wells and crevices, but over a very big area. I mean, talking about 28-mile area. So
much of it already, many searched previously as well, yes.
It's around somewhere called Lagos, which is where apparently he lived for a period of time at the time of Madeline's disappearance.
Yes, Scotland Yard confirming that they're obviously aware of the operation and they'll be supporting the investigation where necessary, but they're not actually going to get involved on the ground, we read.
Yes, and of course, the UK police have been involved and were involved for many years, but no longer are. So it will actually be German police officers who are searching this area. But it says here, a 26-mile strip of land around his former cottage. I mean, that's still a huge area, and so many years later, it feels a bit. I hope that something does something.
Of course, we remember the very intense coverage here on Sky News, starting from her disappearance in 2003. But I think I'm right in saying that the British police has said it's closed.
We must leave it there, Adam and Jeff.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. I'm ready. Are you? Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.